Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the Fellow KGB. My name is Kyle. It's Happy Easter. It's Sunday. It's about 7:30 p.m. Central Time. We're going to be going over the waiver wire watch list really quick here. I got some guys towards the top of the list that, if you're an 8-man league, maybe a 10-man league, these guys might be available, but they need to be owned for sure. So we're going to start. The way I did this, I filled out the watch list. You can get 30 players on your watch list. It ranges anywhere from 75% all the way down to 6%. So hopefully I can find someone for you guys to help pick up for the week. But before we get to some of the top pickups of the week, I just want to show you guys real quick. I have this fantasy cheat sheet chart here, and it's basically telling me how many games each team has left the rest of the season. So this week's special is Detroit. The Detroit Pistons have 5 games. That's more than any other team the rest of this week. If you're looking ahead to next week, let's see here. There's a handful of teams with 4, but as of this week, it's definitely week 15. Detroit Pistons are one of the teams where you can snag some guys and get some points. So we'll look into that a little bit towards the end of the show. But for now, let's just kind of look at the watch list here. And the way that I have this filtered is right now it's 5% rostered. We're looking at the last 7 days. I'd like to see who's been the hottest, but we'll kind of walk it down here. So Robert Williams, of course, has been getting tons of minutes with the Boston Celtics. Now that Daniel Tice is out of the way, he's starting to get his minutes up, above 25 minutes per game. So this is going to be a trend we should expect to continue to see. You see the last few games, 38 points, 52, 33, 40, 48. He's a top 50 fantasy player the rest of the season. So I like what I see here with Robert Williams. I'd recommend trading for him if you can. If the fantasy owner that has him doesn't know what he's got, definitely try to get Robert Williams. We should be really big fans of LaMarcus Aldridge with the Brooklyn Nets right now. He's about 71% owned in just 2 games here so far. I think they're still playing right now against Chicago, but 2 really solid games here. If you were able to hold on to him during his little, spat with the Spurs, he's fantasy relevant the rest of the way here. He's kind of rejuvenating his fantasy life here. So I like LaMarcus Aldridge, but again, both those guys are over 70% owned. I'm going to gloss over some of the guys that are 60% owned: Kevin Porter Jr., Kyle Anderson, and Kyle Kuzma. I think all 3 of these guys need to be owned for sure. And then guys that are about 50 to 60% owned, we'll start with Lou Williams, Moses Brown, Bojan Bogdanovic, and Rui Hachimura. We've talked a lot about Moses Brown on the show. He's one of my favorite players for the rest of the season. He's kind of had a dip in his numbers the last 2 games. So if anyone drops him or if they want to try and trade him, I think he's going to be a pretty good force the rest of the way. So look to the owner of Moses Brown, see if they want to fly a trade through and see what happens. But if he's available, he's only 51% available. 12-man leagues, he needs to be owned. Even 10-man leagues, I think he needs to be owned. We've talked a lot on this show about teams that are not so great, giving younger players a lot of potential playing time the rest of the season. So Moses Brown definitely qualifies as that with Oklahoma City Thunder. Lou Williams starting to get some playtime with Atlanta here. He made the list here. They're playing currently right now. He's not doing the hottest, but that's kind of what you get with Lou Williams. You're going to get a really high game and it's some lower games throughout. But if you look at it as a whole week, you're probably going to like what you see. So I do like Lou Williams for the rest of the way as Atlanta tries to make the playoff push. And then now, Jakob Poeltl, we've talked about him a lot on the show. Wendell Carter Jr., TJ McConnell, these guys are all about 50% owned. I really like Wendell Carter Jr.'s minutes here with Orlando the last 2 games. You see 31 and 34. He's averaging about 20 points per game the last 2 games, 12 boards, basically 40 points per game the last 2 games here. So he's going to get a lot of opportunity with the Magic. And I just think, 50% owned, if he's available, a team like the Magic, kind of like the Thunder, the Rockets, the Pistons, a lot of these teams, they're just going to continue to play their young guys and see what they can do for next year. So I like all 3 of those guys. Jakob Poeltl, a guy that we've talked a lot about on the show. And I think this is the last chance to get him if he's available on your team. 40 minutes and 44 minutes the last 2 games. He's not a big points guy, but man, he's a double-double potential every night. And then the steals and the blocks. He's a really good shot blocker. So Poeltl, man, definitely last chance on him here. And then basically, if you're in a 10 or 12-man league, I think these are the guys that are probably going to be available for you. Starting with Gary Trent Jr. in Toronto here. Now, he's basically just inserted into the Norman Powell role, and his points per game weren't the highest, the first couple games here with the Raptors, but he's coming on of late. You see 24 and 31 points. The minutes are above 30, which you like to see that. And he's not going to be a really consistent guy with the rebounds and the assists and the steals and the blocks. It's all kind of sporadic, but he can do it, just not to a high degree. So he's primarily like a scoring, shooting forward or small forward here. So the last 3 games, 40 points, 39, 32, like a really solid player here. And for the Raptors, their season's not looking great. They're going to be a fringe bubble team to try to make the tournament, the play-in tournament. So look for Gary Trent to get a lot of play time as the season continues. Derek White, I think Lonnie Walker is still out for the next few games here, but Derek White, over the last 2 weeks, going back to like March 22nd, even before that, he's starting to play really consistently. If you're in a 12-man league, just look at the minutes here. I like to follow the minutes come playoff time. 37, 45, 31, 32, 33, 39. He's going to get the double-digit points, but he's a good rebounding assist, and he kind of gets everything on the defensive end too here. So it's pretty consistent for a high floor for Derek White. So go ahead and add him. We're looking at Chuma Okeke here for Orlando Magic, basically just filling in for Aaron Gordon. And he's been playing very well, very consistent the last 5 or 6 games here, going back to March 24th. I like the minutes. Again, 33, 34, upwards of 27. He can go off too with the points column, but the rebounds, the assists are going to be pretty steady. And he's a good defender. He'll fill in some steals and some blocks for you. So I like Okeke quite a bit. He's going to be a guy. The Magic got nothing going on, so they're going to continue to play these young players and get them ready for next season. Danny Green's an interesting veteran in Philadelphia. I liked him more last week. I don't love him right now, but he's got a decent floor. If you're playing in a 12-man league, a 17 wouldn't be the worst. 15 is fine, but he's gonna pad in a 41, a 32. He kind of gets the high ends here. So I like Danny Green for just a consistent guy. He doesn't have a lot of minutes, but he's very productive when he plays, and he's a streaky shooter. He's a quality veteran that as the season goes on here, he should be able to kind of continue staying relevant in 12-man leagues. You got Houston Rockets Jayshawn Tate here. Now here's a guy who he gets plenty of good starter minutes. You see 33s, 39s, 40s, really good starter minutes. He's just not a very consistent scorer. But if you take his scoring away, everything else is pretty nice. He's a good rebound contributor. He can get 4 or 5 assists, and he's going to fill in the steals and the blocks. So I like his high floor. You see, even when he gets 9 or 8 points, he's still going to get over 20 fantasy points. So Jayshawn Tate's pretty safe the rest of the way, I think. And then you got Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Now the Pelicans are getting hit with a lot of injuries. Brandon Ingram, Zion, Lonzo Ball, just a lot of injuries to the Pelicans. And the way that he's been playing lately, like he deserves opportunity here with these guys out. Now I think he was on the bench tonight. I'm not sure if anyone else. Lonzo Ball returned. So we're going to have to wait and see what this looks like with Lonzo Ball back in the lineup. But before Lonzo Ball was out, Nickeil Alexander-Walker was playing pretty good ball here. So this is a guy you want to maybe just add to the watch list. Let's just see how things look when Lonzo, Zion, and Ingram are all back in the mix. But a pretty good player when he had the opportunity. Now, here's our first Detroit Piston for the week. And the thing with Hamidou Diallo is he's been kind of, they've been kind of being easy with him on back-to-backs. You see the 26th and 27th, he got the back-to-back off. On the 31st and the 1st, he gets the second game off. So they kind of do give him, load management, if you will. But when he plays really, really well. I think the 17.75 is his floor. You see he can be really good with the points, the rebounds. This game, he just didn't get the rebounds. 7 to 10 in these 2 games, only 3 in this game. But he's a really interesting player, guy that should get more playing time as the season goes down. And a team that's got, again, 5 games this week. Let's just take a look at his schedule real quick. Where is Hamidou? I don't like how it resets it for me. Why can't I find Hamidou? Where are we? Did I lose him? Hamidou Diallo. Okay, here. So they got a back-to-back on the 5th and the 6th, and then they have another back-to-back down here. So there's still potential for 1, 2, 3 games for Diallo. We'll look at some other players on Detroit in just a little bit that I think might be worth a pickup. But as far as long-term, I do like Diallo. They're not going to have too many back-to-backs they have to worry about, but as long as you get 3 or 4 Diallo games the rest of the way, I think it should be pretty nice. So now let's get to the bottom of the list here. I'll kind of go quickly. Shake Milton's been playing some good ball lately. He's kind of sporadic. He does have some high ceiling games here, but he's got a decent floor, 15, 16 points. These are more for deeper leagues. The minutes aren't very great, but Shake Milton's a solid, if he's got a back-to-back and you want to pick up a guy for 2 nights, I like that. You got Nerlens Noel here. who he's coming off a couple 10-point games, which aren't great. But for the most part, I like him to score around 25 to 30 points per game here. So the Knicks, again, without Mitchell Robinson, probably for the rest of the season, this is a playoff team. We're going to see Nerlens Noel continue to get a lot of opportunity. You got Dwight Howard, who, as long as Joel Embiid is out, which it sounds like he's going to be back pretty quick, maybe sometime this week. But as long as Embiid is out, I like Howard for a game or two. You got Jalen Brunson here for the Dallas Mavericks. And even when Luka Doncic plays, Brunson's been very strong here. He's a really good scorer, really good full floor general with the assists, and he's a really good rebounding guard as well here too. So really savvy, a little bit of a veteran point guard option for you if you need someone just for an injury or a fill-in. Right now, he's under 20% owned, so I like him. You got Terrence Mann here from the Clippers, and here's a guy who's getting some really quality minutes here. Not so much the last few games, but we've seen 30, 34, 29, 32. And when he's gotten the opportunity, he's been getting 25, 26, 33, 28, 32 fantasy points here. So if he gets his minutes turned back, I don't know if this game has ended yet. We'll look and see throughout the rest of the week if he continues to get the minutes here. But I like Terrence Mann quite a bit, only 15% owned. You got Jaden McDaniels here, small forward for the Minnesota Timberwolves. And I think this is the guy that needs to be on the rest of the season. Just looking at the minutes the last 2 weeks, you see 35. The 21's an outlier, but 36, 38, 36, 33. Over 20 points easily in a 12-man league. This is totally acceptable as like your worst player on your team. And you just look at his last 7 days, you see a massive increase in all stats all the way across the board here. So Jaden McDaniels, under 15% owned, probably needs to be owned. You got Rudy Gay. Luguentz Dort continues to be out with a concussion. Corey Joseph's been playing well. And then James Johnson, who I think he's been kind of just a utility guy with all the injuries the Pelicans have been having. But when he gets the minutes, he's very productive. He usually scores more fantasy points than minutes. So keep an eye on James Johnson. But that's pretty much it for the 30-player watch list. Now, we did look and see that there are 5 games for Detroit Pistons. So if you're still hanging around the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new. That helps the channel grow. So we're looking at Detroit Pistons here. We're going to filter by everybody. And over the last 7 days, let's see who's been averaging the most points. So Diallo, of course, has probably been their best player. Mason Plumlee, Jeremy Grant. We also got Corey Joseph here, who, he just came over from the Sacramento Kings, and he's been kind of, like a 25, 28-minute point per game guy. You look at his games, they're not a great game, the other night against the Knicks here, only 11 points, but at 36, at 27, at 35, at 21. They got 5 games this week. So if he's able to get you 80 to 100 points this week, I think that's a win. So I do like Corey Joseph quite a bit here. He might be one of the best guys to pick up. He's only 7% owned. And then you got Josh Jackson here, who he kind of bottomed out against Portland on the 31st. 19 minutes and 0 points. Can't have that. But the last 2 games, this is kind of, I think, his high and his low. Only 5 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals, 19 fantasy points. And then his high, he's a really good scorer when he's feeling it and he's consistent. But 41 fantasy points. So if you can get 5 games from Josh Jackson this week, I think that's easily 80 to 100 points. So that feels pretty good. Saben Lee is their next option here. Why can't I click on that? So Saben Lee, hold on. So the other night, a little bit of a struggle against the Knicks. But for the most part, you start him for 5 games, you're going to end up somewhere, again, that 80 to 100 point range here. So not super attractive. But Sadiq Bey, the other probably popular ad here, he's been kind of inconsistent as late here, seeing a couple games under 10 points. But if you want to just hold on to him for the week and get those 5 games, I like the minutes, but I don't like how it's been trending down lately here. So if you're looking to capitalize, again, from this chart and try to get 5 guys on Detroit this week, I would recommend Corey Joseph, Josh Jackson. Those guys should be available. I love Diallo, but hopefully he doesn't, always miss the second night of a back-to-back. So we'll have to kind of watch that. But that's going to do it for tonight's, Week 15's waiver wire watch list. So thank you guys so much for hanging out and watching with me. Happy Easter. We'll see you guys. Again, we do live streams on Tuesday night. I'll be with John and Drake, I think at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. And then Thursday night, I'm just solo doing live, answering all your questions and stuff. So we'll see you guys Tuesday and Thursday night live. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Peace.